The Washington Nationals are going to be sellers at the trade deadline. Chris Graham here on Augusta Free Press. I'm a Nats fan, so I'm sad to say that, but it's year four of the rebuild. And I think things are going decently well. You gotta, if you're a local baseball fan, local MLB fan, and you follow the local teams, you know that the Baltimore Orioles are now on the good side of a rebuild. It took, and they took lumps for quite a while to get to where they are now with the draft being the option. That was because the previous regime there in Baltimore hadn't done a good job of addressing the players that had gotten them to a good run. The O's there for a several year period in the early to mid 2010s had some playoff caliber teams, made a couple of playoffs, didn't advance very far in those playoffs, but uh, the moves weren't made that needed to be made to flip aging guys into prospects. And so, then you had to go that route, and the O's did so expertly. But it took them a few years, more than some fans were interested in having to wait out, maybe. But to get guys like Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson and the bevy of guys, uh, Jordan Westburg's an all-star from the draft years, the lean years of having to be very savvy at the draft, among many others. That loaded AAA team with prospects there. The Nats went about it a little differently. Um, Instead of keeping their star players from the 2019 World Series champion team around for one last run necessarily, the decision was made in mid 2021 to start tearing down and trying to flip guys like Max Scherzer, like Juan Soto, like Trey Turner into guys they could build around, keep team control of, and put a foundation down that way. So, there's a couple of different ways of going about it. It takes time either way you go about it. And now here in year four, though, you're starting to see some of the guys that Mike Rizzo got from particularly the Juan Soto trade was a really good one. The trade of Max Scherzer and Trey Turner got some guys, but um, CJ Abrams, the All-Star of 2024 for the Nats, was one of the key guys in the trade for Juan Soto in 2022. Abrams with a OPS over 800. Looks like it's an 840 OPS if I do the math there. 349 on base and 491 slugging percentage. 14 homers, 14 stolen bases this season. James Wood, another key centerpiece of that trade, just getting called up in the last couple of weeks. MILB's number one prospect in the midsummer revision of the MILB prospect ratings, and Wood in 52 games down at AAA Rochester slashed over 1,000, and in a couple of weeks up with the big team hitting 250 through 10 games. So those are two cornerstones, shortstop and one of the corner outfield positions. Second baseman Luis Garcia Jr. Another has an OPS of 746, 10 home runs, 12 stolen bases. He's a foundational piece. You got your second base, shortstop, middle infield positions there covered. Catcher Keibert Ruiz is a guy that was one of the pickups from the trade of Scherzer and Turner back in 2021 with the Dodgers. Ruiz struggling this season at the plate, an OPS of just 597, batting average of 224. He's in the year two of an 8-year, $30 million deal that the Nats signed with him to and I think it's actually 8 years, 50 million. I'll have to edit that in the story that I wrote. I'm using my story that I wrote today as notes on this, but uh, they basically signed him to what would be an under market deal. If you were looking at it from Ruiz's perspective, if he waited things out until year five of year six of his uh, team control years, he might have set himself up to make more money down the road, but he signed early, and it's probably smart for a catcher to sign early. He's making 6 million this year, but in later years he'll actually be making closer to double digits in the millions. So not a bad deal for him, but you just have to wonder from the Nats perspective. He's basically an average replacement level defensive guy, and his offensive numbers have dovetailed a bit. So, but he is a guy that's signed for long term. there are two prospects in AAA that are knocking on the door. Dylan Cruz, the number one pick from last year, Brady House, number one pick from back in 2021. Uh, Cruz is a corner outfielder with power. Brady House, a third baseman with power. And they're projected to make their major league debuts either later this year or certainly spring training of next year. Then you look at the starting rotation, and the starting rotation is pretty much set at this stage with young guys. Three rookies making their debuts this year. Jake Irvin, as I'm talking here now, a 7-7 record, 3.13 ERA. Mitchell Parker, kind of a surprise as he's emerged this year, 5-5, 3.44 ERA, 109 WHIP. DJ Hurst, a couple of double-digit strikeout games. His ERA is 5.17, but 11.8 Ks per nine for DJ Hurst, and so those got a promising start out of him. And those three guys working around then two of the major pickups again from those Soto and Turner slash Scherzer trades. Mackenzie Gore's a third-year starter, second year with the Nats, 6-7 record, 3.83 ERA, 1.44 WHIP, 10.7 Ks per nine. That's a significant number. And then a 2023 All-Star in Josiah Gray, who has only made two starts this year. You have to worry. He's on a 60-day DL or IL, I should say, after with some elbow issues. So, in essence, when you look at the effect of the rebuild here in year four, you've got your starting rotation, you've got your catcher, your middle infield, third base, and both your corner outfielders. So your needs are first base. That's another big bat. Center field, either a bat or a combination of bat and certainly defense out there in center field. A number two catcher who can maybe push for the number one job, and then just overall depth. Your trade pieces, when you're looking to see what you can get out of this year. So, the Nats, I mean, I know officially just, I think 6.5 back as I'm talking right now in the wild card race, but there are so many teams in that wild card race, really only two teams in the National League who aren't in the playoff race at this stage. That's, and the way the Nats have swooned again, 4-13 in the last 17 games, you have to think that, you're going to be able to flip some of these pieces around and rating in order of who, I think can fetch the most in terms of trade value. You start with Kyle Finnegan. He's the closer, has been a closer the last 3 years, really. At 32, he is at his peak value in terms of being a trade prospect. This season, as of as we're talking right now, 2-4 record. It doesn't matter so much, but a 2.17 ERA, a 0.96 WHIP, 9.4 Ks per nine. He's the kind of guy that can be basically plug and play for a contender, either as a closer or at the worst as your eighth inning guy. And so I can see Finnegan being a value such for Mike Rizzo that you can expect a high level prospect and maybe then even a second, maybe mid-tier prospect in return. Lane Thomas is a guy that I think can get you the same thing. Thomas is 28 years old and 28 homers, 20 steals last season. Some injury issues this year, just now kind of getting back into the swing of things. OPS of 706, 8 homers. One more year of team control is important. And with Cruz knocking on the door at AAA as a corner outfielder, Thomas is expendable. And he's another guy, again, who can probably get you, something good, really good in return. Jesse Winker, really good numbers. An OPS over 800, 10 homers, 12 stolen bases. He's 30 years old, only on a one-year deal, so he's a rental for whoever would want to pull the trigger and try to get him in there. But he's another plug-and-play guy and a corner outfielder. Reliable bat. I think you can squeeze a contender for a decent prospect. I'm not sure about a top prospect, but you can probably get somebody who can maybe play his way into being a contributor at the big league level for Winker. And that wouldn't be a bad turnaround. Sign a guy for a one-year deal and flip him for something that maybe can give you some value down the road. Dylan Floro is another guy, now kind of a next tier down, even though his numbers are great. 2.01 ERA, 1.03 WHIP. Floro's 33. He doesn't have the K numbers to match Finnegan's. He's probably not, he's not a closer. He's probably not even your eighth inning guy, but he's probably a sixth or seventh inning guy for a contender. And you can flip him for a second tier prospect, and he's a one-year deal. So that would be a great rental, so to speak, for the Nats. Hunter Harvey is intriguing to me. He's a guy who's 29 years old. He's still got a year of team control. He's right now, he's so inconsistent. I'm not sure that he's of value to a contender. He's got great potential. And I think he's still got the stuff to be a closer at the big league level, but I don't know, he could be a Tanner Rainey too. 4.40 ERA, 1.28 whip, 9.6 Ks per 9 innings. I think that, there are some things there. If Finnegan goes and Hunter Harvey isn't Rizzo can't find, good value in a trade for Harvey. Harvey probably becomes your closer for the rest of the year. With that extra year of team control, you can flip him next year if things don't lead to a potential playoff berth next year. So we'll see about Harvey. And then one other piece I just have to mention, great numbers, but Trevor Williams, one of the a starter this year. He's been on the IL for a while though, since early June. 5-0, 2.22 ERA, 1.08 WHIP. But he's 32 years old, and again, he's been injured for over a month now. And I did a lot, as much research as I could today to see if there was any hint of or inkling of what he might be able to get back for a rehab start or two, even maybe get back to the big league level before the trade deadline, which is less than 3 weeks away. For rival GMs to get a sense of what value he may have. He's he's a guy. He can, for a contender, I don't know that he's not a guy that's going to start playoff games for you, but he can be a fourth or fifth guy in a rotation for a contender, and help them get some wins in August and September to get them to the playoffs, and then be a long guy in the playoffs. So, but he could be that guy, but his injury, he's got a flexor issue in his right forearm, and so that could be the kind of thing. Again, not hearing where he he may be, that may be something that could be difficult. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Nats can do with this. As of just a couple of weeks ago, when the Nats were right around 500, a game or two out of the playoff race, I'm thinking, hey, maybe, I'm a Nats fan again. Maybe the Nats can make a surprise run this year at the third wild card spot. But it's probably more prudent now that they're falling back, and now as I'm talking right now, 9 games under 500. It makes a lot more sense to flip these pieces and maybe find the piece or two that you need to have a team that can contend for the next 4 or 5 years. So if you have any questions for me, any comments, any suggestions, anything of that nature for a future story, future quick talk here, video, podcast, anything else, please email me at chris@augustafreepress.com.